The sun hung low over the hidden leaf village, casting long shadows across the training grounds where Naruto Uzumaki stood, panting heavily, his orange jumpsuit streaked with dirt and sweat. Beside him, Sasuke Uchiha adjusted his stance, the Sharingan swirling in his crimson eyes as he analyzed their opponent, a mysterious figure cloaked in shifting, ethereal energy, their presence warping the very air around them. "This guy's not like any enemy we've faced before," Sasuke muttered, his voice tense. "His chakra. It's unstable, like time itself is bending around him." Naruto wiped his brow with the back of his hand, grinning despite the exhaustion. "Yeah, well, that just means we gotta hit him harder, right?" he said, clenching his fists as Kurama's chakra flickered around him in a fiery aura. The battle had begun hours earlier, though it felt like mere minutes, an eerie distortion Naruto had noticed the moment the stranger appeared at the village gates. The figure had spoken in riddles, warning of a paradox that would unravel the leaf if left unchecked. When Kakashi and the other Jonin moved to intercept, time itself seemed to stutter, their attacks passing harmlessly through the intruder as if they were ghosts. Only Naruto and Sasuke, their chakra resonating with something primal within the stranger, had been able to engage. Now, as the fight raged, Naruto could feel something strange stirring inside him, a pressure in his chest, as though his very heartbeat was out of sync with the world. The cloaked figure lunged, their movements erratic yet precise, like a wind that changed direction mid-gust. Sasuke dodged left, his Sharingan predicting the attack a fraction of a second before it landed, but the enemy twisted unnaturally, their fist phasing through his guard and striking his ribs. Sasuke gasped as the impact sent him skidding backward, his feet carving trenches in the earth. Before he could recover, the figure flickered, no, not flickered, but rewound, their position resetting to where they'd stood moments ago, as if the strike had never happened. "What the hell?" Naruto spat, his eyes widening. "They're manipulating time." Sasuke steadied himself, his breath ragged. "Then we don't give them time to think," he growled. In unison, the two launched their assault. Naruto formed a barrage of shadow clones, their numbers swelling into the hundreds, while Sasuke's Rinnegan flared, his Susanoo manifesting in a crackling shell of violet energy. The clones charged, kunai flashing, but the stranger merely raised a hand. The air rippled, and suddenly every clone froze mid-motion, suspended like insects in amber. Then, with a flick of their wrist, time lurched forward, but not for Naruto. He watched in horror as his clones aged rapidly, crumbling to dust in seconds. "No way," he whispered. Sasuke wasn't idle. Seizing the opening, his Susanoo's massive blade came down in a devastating arc. The stranger dodged, or seemed to, but at the last second, time rewound again, placing them just out of reach. Yet this time, Naruto saw it, a flicker in their cloak, a momentary instability. "Sasuke, again," he shouted, pouring every ounce of Kurama's chakra into his next move. A Rasengan formed in his palm, but this one was different, swirling with an unfamiliar energy, its core pulsing like a dying star. The stranger's eyes widened, the first hint of surprise crossing their obscured features. "You shouldn't be able to do that," they murmured. Naruto didn't hesitate. He lunged, the Rasengan screaming through the air, and this time, when the stranger tried to rewind, something resisted. Time stuttered, the world flickering between moments, but Naruto's attack held true. The impact sent shockwaves rippling outward, the ground fracturing beneath them. The stranger's cloak tore away, revealing a face that made Naruto's blood run cold. It was his own, but older, worn with years of unseen battles. "You don't understand," the older Naruto gasped, clutching his chest where the Rasengan had struck. "If you keep going down this path, the village, everything, will be erased." Before Naruto could process the revelation, the older version of himself dissolved into shimmering particles, his form unraveling like a frayed thread. The distortion in the air faded, leaving only silence. Sasuke staggered to his feet, his Rinnegan still active. "What was that?" he demanded. Naruto could only shake his head, his mind racing. "I don't know," he admitted, staring at his hands. "But whatever's happening, it's got something to do with me." Deep within his subconscious, Kurama's voice rumbled, uneasy. "Kid, that wasn't just any jutsu. That was time chakra. And if I'm right, you just became its Jinchuriki." The weight of those words settled over Naruto like a storm cloud. Somewhere, in the fabric of reality, a paradox had been born, and he was at the center of it. The fight was far from over. In fact, it had only just begun. The air crackled with tension as Naruto Uzumaki stood atop the Hokage monument, his golden cloak flaring with the raw energy of the time chakra. Below him, The Leaf Village lay in ruins, caught in the paradox of overlapping timelines, past and future colliding in a storm of chaos. Across from him, Madara Uchiha smirked, his Rinnegan pulsing with dark power. "You can't rewrite fate, boy," he taunted, spinning his gun by with a whirl of wind that sent debris flying. Naruto clenched his fists, feeling the Nine Tails chakra merge with the temporal energy surging through him. "I don't need to rewrite fate, I just need to protect everyone in the present." He lunged forward, his body blurring as he crossed the distance in an instant. Madara barely raised his gun by in time to block the Rasengan that exploded against it, the force carving a crater into the ground beneath them. The shockwave sent both combatants skidding back, but neither hesitated. Madara's Sharingan flickered, predicting Naruto's next move before he even made it. A volley of kunai laced with explosive tags arced toward the Uzumaki, but Naruto twisted midair, forming a shadow clone to intercept the blast while he flipped over Madara, slamming a spinning kick into his ribs. The Uchiha grunted but retaliated with a sweeping scythe of chakra chains, forcing Naruto to backflip away. "You're fast," Madara admitted, rubbing his side. "But speed alone won't save you." He slammed his hands together, and the ground erupted as colossal wooden spikes shot toward Naruto. The Jinchuriki gritted his teeth, weaving hand signs before unleashing a massive wind-style Rasen Shuriken. The spiraling disc of chakra shredded through the wood, but Madara was already gone, reappearing behind Naruto with a Susanoo blade aimed at his spine. Naruto's instinct screamed, and he barely activated his own chakra cloak in time, the ethereal golden armor deflecting the strike. The impact still sent him crashing through 3 buildings before he skidded to a stop. Blood trickled from his lip, but he grinned. "That all you got, old man?" Madara's eyes narrowed. "You're learning." Elsewhere, Sasuke Uchiha clashed with a twisted version of himself, a future incarnation corrupted by the paradox, wielding a blade of pure time energy. Their swords met in a shower of sparks, each strike resonating like a ticking clock. "Pathetic," the dark Sasuke hissed. "You still cling to bonds. That's why you'll lose." Sasuke's Rinnegan flared. "Shut up." He feinted left before pivoting into a Chidori thrust, but his future self vanished in a ripple of distorted air, reappearing above him with a downward slash. Sasuke barely rolled away, the blade carving a deep fissure into the earth. His mind raced, predicting his opponent's movements was impossible when time itself was being manipulated. Then it hit him. If his enemy could skip moments, then he had to strike in the gaps between them. Focusing his Sharingan, Sasuke saw it, the faintest delay as his future self phased between instants. He waited, baiting another attack. When the blade came down, he didn't dodge, instead, he activated Amino Tejikara, swapping places with a nearby rock. The dark Sasuke's swing carried him forward, and in that split-second vulnerability, Sasuke drove his sword through his counterpart's chest. The corrupted Uchiha gasped, his form flickering like a dying flame. "You can't stop what's coming," he rasped before dissolving into motes of light. Back at the main battle, Naruto and Madara's fight reached a fever pitch. The Uzumaki had pushed his time chakra to the limit, accelerating his movements to near impossible speeds. Madara, however, countered with the full might of his perfect Susanoo, the towering warrior cleaving the battlefield with sword strikes that split the earth. Naruto dodged, weaving between slashes before launching himself upward, forming a massive Rasengan infused with temporal energy. "Let's end this," he roared, plunging toward Madara. The Uchiha met him head-on, Susanoo blade clashing against the spiraling sphere. The collision unleashed a shockwave that shattered the surrounding landscape, the very air trembling under the force. For a moment, everything hung in balance, then Naruto's Rasengan pulsed, unraveling the Susanoo's armor like threads of time being pulled apart. Madara's eyes widened as the energy consumed his defenses, blasting him backward into the earth. Panting, Naruto landed, his cloak flickering. He had pushed his body beyond its limits, but the battle wasn't over yet. The paradox still raged, timelines unraveling faster than ever. He turned to see Sasuke approaching, his expression grim. "We need to seal the rift," Sasuke said. "Before the village is erased from existence." Naruto nodded. "Then let's do it together." As the two heroes prepared for their final move, the sky above them split open, revealing a vortex of swirling time energy. The true enemy, the source of the paradox, loomed within, its form shifting between past, present, and future. The battle had reached its climax. There was no turning back now. The air crackled with energy as Naruto Uzumaki stood at the epicenter of the storm, his body radiating the golden glow of Kurama's chakra intertwined with the eerie silver luminescence of the time seal. Across from him, The rogue shinobi, Kairo, smirked, his own temporal distortions warping reality around him like shattered glass. The fate of the Leaf Village, no, the entire timeline, hung in the balance. You still don't get it, do you? Kairo taunted, his voice echoing as if from multiple moments at once. Time bends to my will. You're just a puppet fighting against the inevitable. Naruto clenched his fists, his breath ragged but his resolve unbroken. I don't care how many times you rewrite history, I'll keep fighting until I save everyone. Behind him, Sasuke's Sharingan blazed, his Rinnegan pulsing as he analyzed the fractures in Kairo's technique. He's vulnerable between his time jumps, Sasuke muttered. But the window's less than a second. With a roar, Naruto surged forward, a whirlwind of clones erupting around him, each one lashing out with Rasengans infused with temporal energy. Kairo flickered in and out of existence, dodging effortlessly, but Sasuke was already moving, his sword flashing as he severed one of the rogue's distortions mid-leap. Kairo grunted, his arm bleeding, proof he wasn't invincible. The battle escalated in a blur of motion. Sakura, her fists wreathed in chakra, shattered the ground beneath Kairo's feet, forcing him to recalibrate his position. Kakashi's Kamui snipped at the edges of his defenses, while Shikamaru's shadows lashed like chains, trying to pin him down. But Kairo was relentless, his laughter manic as he rewound injuries, erased attacks before they landed, and even summoned versions of himself from alternate timelines. Naruto felt his body straining, the time seal was eating at his life force, every use accelerating his own decay. Kurama's voice growled in his mind, "You're pushing too hard, kid. At this rate, you won't survive the fight." But Naruto gritted his teeth. "Then I'll make sure it ends before that happens." In a desperate gambit, Naruto and Sasuke synchronized their movements, their years of rivalry and partnership culminating in this moment. Sasuke's Amaterasu ignited the air, black flames swallowing Kairo's escape routes, while Naruto channeled every ounce of his power into a single, colossal Rasen Shuriken, this one laced with the essence of time itself. As he hurled it, the very fabric of reality shuddered. Kairo's eyes widened as the attack connected, not just striking him but unraveling the threads of his existence. "No, this isn't possible." He screamed, his form flickering like a dying flame. The paradoxes he'd created collapsed inward, sealing him in a loop of his own making, a prison of frozen time. Silence fell. The distortions faded, the village stabilizing as the timeline corrected itself. Naruto collapsed to his knees, his vision blurring. Sasuke caught him before he hit the ground, his usual stoicism cracked with rare concern. "Idiot. You really went all out, huh?" Naruto grinned weakly. "Had to. For everyone." Around them, the villagers emerged from shelters, their faces a mix of awe and relief. The cost was clear, Naruto's hair had streaks of silver now, a permanent mark of the time seal's toll. But the future was secure. In the days that followed, the village rebuilt, stronger than before. The incident had rewritten history in subtle ways, some lost memories returned, some tragedies were undone. But the bonds between them remained unbroken. Naruto, though weakened, stood as a living testament to the price of time's power. And the unyielding will to protect what mattered most. As the sun set over the leaf, he smiled. The future was theirs to shape, one moment at a time.